Please be seated. Would you pray with me a moment? Open my lips that my mouth might show forth your praise. And may the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight. O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. I'd ask you to try to remember. For most of you, actually, there is a baby right here, so they don't have to remember. They're living it right now. But try to remember your children or your grandchildren when they began to claim their identity. You might remember the first thing they did was to reach out, usually to their mother. And the first word was mama, mama, mom, whatever the word was. And then a little bit later in time, they learned their own name, Max. And right along with it, the word mine. And sometime when the walking and the talking came along, there became a favorite shirt or a favorite pair of pants or a favorite shoes or sweatshirt, mine. Favorite foods, which were eaten, and unfavorite foods, which were thrown away. Routines, to go to bed, to get up, to get washed. Favorite books, which you would read over and over and over again. And favorite videos, mine. And you'd say, that's our boy, or that's our girl. Then came the time in our lives, but in our child's lives, which we remember, when they decided they were going to grow up to be someone else. When I grow up, I'm going to be Captain America. And when I grow up, I'm going to be Amelia Earhart. I bet you Amelia Earhart could take Captain America. And they read all the books and learn all the facts about this person they want to be when they grow up. Then come the teen years. The time when they've decided that they aren't going to wait until they grow up to become someone else. They're going to start right now. I'm going to look like Brad Pitt. And I'm going to look like Beyonce. And they go out and they get the haircut and they get the clothing. And their friends all say, dude, you look awesome. Just like Brad Pitt. And we parents say, we don't say anything, actually, if you're smart. You don't say anything at this point. You just say, not so much. You sort of look like all your other friends who really don't look like Kim Kardashian. And finally, we grow up. Or not. And we find ourselves, to our own surprise, being a doctor or a mechanic or whatever it is we do. We find ourselves being a single person or a married person, a parent or an auntie, happy or not so much. But because we live in a society that's all about goals and progress and personal development, where we tell ourselves, what am I going to try to achieve this year in my job? And what am I going to try to achieve with my relationships? And how am I going to transform my personal finances this year? Or how much time am I going to take off my marathon time? Or how am I going to get in touch with my inner self? We find ourselves running after success or achievement or wealth or reputation, always something more. Which we might not realize are all moving targets. And when you think you're there, there's something more. and it just slips through your fingers like the salt, wherever I put it. And what I've discovered as I'm closing in on it is many of us grown-ups make it all the way to old age before we finally realize or accept that we have arrived. In our 30s, in our 40s, in our 50s, in our 60s, we keep wondering, who am I going to become when I grow up? What am I missing? Who am I? And how should I really be living my life? My friends, part of the really good news of being a Christian is that Jesus has already given us answers to those questions. Answers that really answer the question, that don't slip through our fingers, that are applicable for all people in all circumstances. We do not have to use up our life trying to find the answers. We can live our life living the answers. We've heard it now twice. But in a nutshell, Jesus says, be exactly who you already are. Be only and totally who you already are. Be enthusiastically and unabashedly who you already are. And who is that? You are the salt of the earth. And as we discovered with the young people, salt is a flavor that enhances whatever it's put on, but it is also a preservative that keeps whatever it's rubbed into or soaked in from going bad. It's something that literally permeates flesh and blood and water. And when Jesus is talking about being the salt, he's talking about us allowing ourselves to be salted by God's love through and through. And when we're salted enough, we'll know it because we'll taste it. In everything we do, in everything we think, in everything we are. And we too will be salting others as we touch them with our lives, with our words, with the church that we build in this place, by the things that we do. And my friends, the best part is it's super easy to figure out if we're really being who we really are. I just ask myself in any circumstance, is this love, what I'm doing? Am I being salty? If the answer is yes, then carry on. If the answer is no, then I'm not being me and I need to reset. And of course, the human potential for self-deception and self-delusion is enormous here. It's like I went to a Catholic school for a couple of years, and when the brothers were beating us, they would say, "This is hurting me more than it's going to hurt you." And I'm like, "No, brother, it's hurting me, unless your hand is really tender." The fact is, though, we can tell the difference when it's love or not. And Jesus goes on and says, you are the light of the world. The light of God reaching you in whatever darkness you find yourself. So much so that you shine. The warmth of God's light reaching you in whatever coldness you find yourself, so that you thaw out. And we know it when we live in that light. Because we find ourselves, rather than drawing back, shining a light into other people's darkness when they are lost, to show them, brother, sister, you are not alone. I am with you. I don't know what this is, but I'm with you. Or we reach a hand into their coldness and share our warmth, so they know life and not death. And just like the salt, it is so easy to figure out if you're getting it right. Is this light what I'm doing? Am I being light or am I spreading darkness? If the answer is no, then I'm not being who I am, and I need to reset. And the great thing about this is you can usually see it on other people's faces when you're being the darkness. Even Yankees, we can't completely cover it up. But if the answer is yes, then carry on. And you can tell the difference. We've all had times when we're so down that it infects a whole room. And we've all had times, like my grandmother said, the answer to all life's problem is a smile and chocolate cake. She was right for that time. But the good news is that unlike growing up to be Brad Pitt or Beyonce Knowles, this saltiness and this light is not some identity that we're trying to put on. It's merely peeling away all the identities that we've been layering on and trying on, until it's just me, and it's just you, and it's just us. Who we really are, living exactly the way God invites us to. Now, before you write this sermon off as just another rehash of the old love trope that you've heard 1,000 times in church before, or some sort of warm and fuzzy fur ball, or an impossible dream, the Man of La Mancha, hear me out. This is something I've thought a lot about, and if you've heard me preach, I come back to it all the time. This, my friends, is the truth. This is the truth. The thing every human being ever born and ever going to be born has in common with every other human being is we all want to be loved. And we all need to love someone else or something else. Think about it. There's nothing else we all have in common. Not completely. Being a human being is just that simple. Everything else can be a part of the puzzle, but it can also be a wrench in your works, or sand in your gears, or a spoke in your tire, in your wheel, that jams you up all the time. And maybe, my friends, life has beaten you up or let you down so much that you just don't dare to love or be loved. Maybe the people that have shown up in your life have failed you, so you feel like you cannot feel. But I have never met anyone that it isn't there somewhere, that best part of life, even if we only show it to our dog or our cat. Everyone, everywhere at some time has known that feeling of love, and with it, the completeness, the enoughness that nothing else will do. So, my friends, coming here, being faithful, daring to believe. Here's another analogy for you, or metaphor. Actually, it's probably a simile. It's like a bungee jump into God's love in Jesus Christ. And I say bungee jump because it's not a free fall, because God in Jesus is not going to let you face plant from 1,000 feet up. All we have to do is let what's on the inside out and let it thrive, so that the best part of being a human being comes the biggest part of me being me, and the biggest part of you being you, and the biggest part of us as a church being us in this place. It's not rocket science. It's just being who we already are all the way. Amen.